What's going on, Collin? How you been, man?
How's it going, man?
Good, man. Good. Been wanting to get you on. How's
Yeah, man. We've been all over the place, dude. Everybody's either sick or people all over the map right now. So,
yeah. I was talking to Coach Green, and he was saying he takes it 12 hours at a time. I was like, that's the way to do it, man. You wake up, you think you're here, then when you're going to bed, you're here, or whatever it may be. But no, can go a lot of different directions with this, man. You got a lot going on. Obviously, a lot of history in the sport, a lot of takes, I'm sure. But I mean, from the rip, man, right? You and Lance were the guys, right? I mean, you kind of right off the rip, right? Do you have a youth wrestling memory that kind of sticks out to you? I know there's probably a ton, but do you have one that kind of just sticks out?
dude, honestly, I just remember always going to Burnett's barn and just you had to be ready for war, dude.
Mhm, mhm.
Like
Was that in Grafton or was that Milan or
now, no, that was still over in Grafton, yeah.
okay?
So it was real close to us. We were over in Columbia Station, so it
Mhm.
was only like a 15 to 20-minute drive. And every time you pulled in there, I mean, you had Tony Jameson, Cam Tassari, the Stever brothers. I mean, the room was just loaded. And I just remember every time going into that room, if you weren't busting your ass, your dad was definitely going to whoop you on the way out. I mean, every takedown was like the national finals, but I just always remember that. Every time I see Bernie, I have like flashbacks. I gotta like hold PTSD and hold myself down. But no, man, stuff like that. And then obviously we traveled the country quite a bit. That's kind of how we got our name out there. But we traveled with a lot of cool people and had a lot of good times. The Silvers and the Ashmores and Taylor and rooming with people all over the place. And it was pretty cool, man. We developed some relationships that still click today, and I don't know, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean that the names you mentioned nationally, and then also just the room at Burnett's, locally,
Great.
right from Northeast Ohio. It was just crazy
We
room.
always talk about if all the guys who trained with Bernie ended up all at the same place.
Wow.
I mean, it'd be phenomenal.
Right. I mean, even Jameson was, from he would have been at Monroeville, I believe, too. And, he ended up, going over to Youngstown. So if you imagine with he was that Monroeville for just those five, but yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, right, you had all those guys at Bernie, and this is back, before what it was now, but they
right.
were the who's who.
It was crazy. It was
Yeah.
crazy, and it was such like a small room at
Mhm,
Piecraft's place, and
mhm,
I mean, people just got in there and bang, dude. It was rooms are a little bit different now. I mean, you
mhm,
don't really see as much of like how we used to train. I think
mhm,
kids maybe more skilled nowadays, but
yeah.
it was nice being in a room where you knew if you got in a brawl, you were you were in.
Right.
So
No, I think we're in a good spot in Ohio though, right? We have more options to train, right? Back then, right? You train
yeah,
there, probably there in Jordans. I mean, anywhere else kinda or
yeah. I mean, other than that, what were we chasing? We're running out to North Akron every now and again.
okay.
They had a really solid room every now and again, and then yeah, I mean, now, dude, like every street corner you go, you got a training facility. So I think for the sport in general, it's a great thing to have. But I think we down here in Columbus, we're just trying to get that intensity level to
Mhm.
match what where Cleveland and all those places are at. It's getting there. Just takes time. We've
No,
lost a, you know, I don't think we've lost a step. Everything's going in the right direction. You got Stevers down here and you got Moran down here. He runs a, pretty
mhm.
intense room and everything. So I think you just keep it going and keep producing.
Yeah, you guys are definitely in a good spot compared to what was, 10 years ago, I feel like, in Central
Right.
Ohio. Um, I guess growing up, you and Lance obviously not to harp on that, but did you guys know all along St. Ed's for sure, or guess or what was that process like?
Oh, dude, that was a crazy one. So I was always set with St. Ed's. Lance was in between Walsh and St. Ed's. So at the
Okay.
time, you had like Mike Pasillo, you
Mhm.
had Dave Rella, um, probably missing a few, but
Oh, yeah, there's
you
there's a
had this
ton.
whole
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you had this whole group of guys that were set to go to Walsh at the time, and the first day of school, Lance was actually driving to Walsh, and then just had this inkling of he didn't want to go, and he wanted to go to St. Ed. So then turned back around, and the next day he was at St. Ed's, and that's
Really?
Yeah, dude, it was nutty because I know they were in talks with like Marhofer and everybody else, and I think that's the era of Musser and Marchetti
Hmm.
were there. So
Hmm.
I mean, you had two amazing coaches
Right,
going on,
right.
so it was a hell of a program. But I don't know. I've always been a fan of St. Ed's. Just watching like Yoshi Nakamura and all them
Hmm.
guys growing up, Mike Tolar.
Hmm.
I mean, the list is endless with monsters from there. But it was, I don't know. I was always an Ed's guy, that's for sure.
Right, right. You obviously keep in touch with those guys, right? Anyone you lean on specifically, or you keep
As far as
contact
keeping in
most?
touch with like the older alumni, I always follow all of Yoshi's stuff.
Right.
Obviously
Yeah.
he's still tied in with Beat the Streets and all that good
Yeah. He's
stuff.
out in New York, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think he does financials in New
Yeah.
York,
Yeah.
but he's just a good dude, man.
Yeah, has walked this. I forget the slogan, but he does Instagram. Kind of when the whole COVID thing, he walked the block. I forget what they
Oh yeah,
call
yeah,
it. Something
yeah,
the block, around the block with Yoshi.
yep,
And
yep. Around the
I,
block.
yeah, I like his takes on things. He seems like a pretty smart guy, and
Yeah,
he wrestled. So he was around my age, and I remember we were at Top Gun, and we had it was my freshman year, and he was wrestling one of our ended up state champs, and a D3. We were a small school, but he just our guy thought he was going to go upper body with Yoshi. And obviously, that did not well. I think he ended up
not a
teching our
good
guy, and our
idea.
guy was D3 state champ, but Yoshi just same thing over and over. But he's a bad dude. Yeah, they had some. It's obviously, but yeah, Walsh even in that time frame too, man. That time
Yeah,
frame when I was there was thick. I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. So you had pretty close to being a Warriors instead of Eagles, huh?
yeah. I mean, we trained out there so much, and then
Hmm.
for me, I had like Chase Skenesny
Yeah, yeah.
and Tyler Lambert. I actually ended up wrestling him in the state finals one year. He transferred out from Walsh to Stowe.
Okay.
So I mean, the caliber of kids were definitely there, but I think everybody just got spread out a little bit. So,
Hmm.
but that's where we were. I mean, and we were also. I mean, Strongsville was on our radar.
Oh, how was
Because
that? So what was
well,
kind of
we all first started at Strongsville Mini Mustangs,
okay?
actually it was Strongsville YMCA, and then it turned into the Mini Mustangs. And Pasillo was one of the guys who we kind of grew up
Hmm. Hmm.
alongside. So you had Pasillo, Albert Matson. He ended
Hmm.
up going to
Hmm.
Eds as well. He was a state champ. Um, who else? The group was huge, and everybody just kind of parted. Some went to Walsh, some went to Eds, and um, I don't remember the reasoning behind that, but my grandma had lived in Strongsville, so we were trying to like scoot that direction initially, and then we ended up pulling the trigger going to Eds. But there
Gotcha.
was a few options on the list, and I know Jordan was trying to get us to come down to Graham, and
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know, man. I wasn't a big fan of being that far outside of the city.
Hmm.
We grew up real tight to obviously by Strongsville and all that, so we had
Hmm.
everything we needed right there. Um, but yeah, it definitely came down to Walsh and Eds when
Nice.
Lance was making his decision.
Right.
So
So was it natural then? Obviously, you had the injuries at Ohio State, but was it natural then to just go because he was there? As the older brother thing to Ohio
yeah,
State.
pretty much. I mean, especially with Ohio State, like I hardly even looked at other schools or anything like that. I had been a big Ohio State fan, but I felt like, between going down when Lance was I'd go down with him when he was going down for his recruiting trips and all that good stuff, go to the football games and the coaching staff was amazing at the time. It was Hellickson,
Hmm.
Mitch Clark, he had been working with us from the time we were like 9 or 10 years old on boot riding and
And Heskett
going
was there
down there.
coaching too, right? Was Heskett still there coaching too?
Yeah, Heskett was there. So that he was part of the new coaching staff.
Okay.
So Lance was recruited by Hellickson and
Hmm.
Mitch and who else was on there? I want to say I'm drawing a blank.
It's all right.
But anyways, as soon as Lance got there, that's when everything like flip flopped. So they
Hmm.
gave him the option, hey, you can stay or you can go. He ended up staying, and Tom Ryan and so Tom brought in not Jaggers. Tom brought in Joe Haskett,
Heskett.
and then he had Lou Roselli. Obviously, was
Hmm.
his right hand man, but and then Thatcher was on the coaching staff as well. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of I fell in love with Ohio State, and just I mean, Jaggers was the one who kind of hosted Lance, and he was a few years
Mhm.
older than Lance. And then, he was always super good dude, super, super like welcome and opening,
Mhm.
even though I was like, what was I, 15 years old down at Ohio State hanging out. But yeah, I mean, just good vibes. I liked Oklahoma State though, and
Okay.
I never went and did a trip, which I kind of wish I would have. Obviously, things didn't work out when I got to college, anyways, with my body. But I think so. One of my good buddies, Jordan Oliver,
Mhm.
and he was in between Ohio State and Oklahoma State, but he was 1 year older than me, and I wanted to go to college with this dude because I'm like, hey, this is the baddest dude
Mhm.
that I would say in the entire country around my size, and I just wanted to be like training partners with this dude, and it was unfortunate because he went to Oklahoma State, and he's like, dude. He's like, I just couldn't say no to John Smith. I'm like, I don't think I could have either. Dude's a monster. But yeah, so I was kind of torn between a couple places, but I think it was more of Ohio State was close to home, big
Mhm.
brother type of deal. They were all super welcoming and good people, and that's just kind of how that flew.
Gotcha. Did you have kind of, I guess, you and Lance on the mat had the same, style, I guess, but I guess approaches to the sport? I mean, anything different in your training or I mean, you kind of right came up under Wayne the Pain, right? And then obviously you had the Ed's touch, but I mean, anything in approach, I know me and my brothers just had all different styles. It wasn't very, the same at all. But I mean, you guys, I guess in your training or anything different?
I mean, honestly, dude, we with training under my dad, we had, he did all the weightlifting. So I
Mhm.
mean, we started weightlifting at probably 12 years old, 10 years old. Like,
Mhm.
so we were just like, you know, kind of forming the style all the way around, but we kind of turned into like just brutes, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like now you see like a ton of like I was saying earlier, like a ton of skill and everything else. And there's a little less like brawl type of wrestling going on right now. And I just feel like you were out there to take somebody's head off. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like
No, yeah, for
it
sure.
was a very rough style of wrestling. But between me and Lance, I mean, when Lance, the older he got, he definitely turned into, um, he didn't come out of position much. He was very, very strong in the positions that he would like to get to, and he stuck to a couple moves. He stuck to, like a blast double on his feet, and he stuck to boots and power half on top.
Mhm.
Um, for me, I kind of ran through a little bit of everything.
Mm.
Think I wrestled more of like a feel, instead of forced,
Mhm.
and I don't know, just kind of ran through whatever was available. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But all in all, I think we are both pretty brutal when it came to hand fighting and just trying
Yeah.
to make sure you let the guy know that you were there. you know?
Right. I think aggressive would be the term, right? And I think I probably went in before matches kind of intimidating some people, especially at a young age. I mean, from what
Right.
I remember, I was a little bit older than you guys, but from seeing, some of the videos and stuff, the aggressiveness. Um, Anything you take away in your coaching now that that your dad kind of instilled in you? Is there one
Um,
one aspect?
Yeah, I would say one thing that I always try to focus on with my guys that my dad always did is consistency. I know, I know it sounds goofy out of all the things we did, but what I've noticed just from coaching these guys, the guys who are consistent with me, and obviously, if you're consistent with me, I'm going to be super consistent with you. I'm not
Mhm.
skipping a
Mhm.
beat, but I just feel like if you don't have the consistency portion in anything you do, you're not going to make it, especially to that elite level. And then now with clubs every street corner, like we were saying,
Mhm.
you don't. I mean, just being consistent, whether it's with training or whether it's with your attitude or what I mean. Like, I know it sounds a little bit goofy, but I just always try to be consistent with my guys. And my dad was, I mean, it was crazy. We were 10, 11 years old and we didn't miss a workout. It
Mhm.
was like that
Mhm.
was our regimen. That's what we did. And, you know, um, it was hard, but obviously everything paid off. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
it was kind of like just going to work. That was your
Mhm.
job. That's what you do. You get it in, you get it done. And that's the biggest thing that I preach to my guys. when you come to practice, you're at practice for maybe, let's see, 3, 4.5 hours a week, depending on how many days we do. That's not enough. Like if you guys aren't putting in 2, 3 hours a day at home, you can't expect to be at the top of the podium. Like when some of my guys, they'll wrestle. I call them part timers. They're here for
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 months and then they're gone for 7.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys, they'll get to the state tournament and they're crying because they lost. I'm like, dude, this kid wrestles 11 months out of the
Yeah,
year.
you're
How
right.
do you expect to stick? You can't compete with that. I don't know. But yeah, I would say that's definitely the number one takeaway. I mean, it was crazy, dude. Like being that young, and my dad just super, super out of everything in life. He was super consistent with our
Mm-hmm.
training. It was definitely like just being completely 100% dedicated to making sure we had what we needed.
Right, right. It's
Yeah.
you're both real receptive to it too. I mean, you've probably seen those kids that you kind of push hard and it's like they crumble,
Mhm.
but you guys,
Yeah.
you guys were, built for it mentally and physically, right? Obviously.
Right.
But no, I get what you're saying though. The consistent, you can't expect to get the results from the work you didn't do, right? And
Right.
I see on social media sometimes you kind of do a shout out to the club, like, look, here's the program if you want to be at the top,
Yep.
and you know what, obviously you've done it and you've been coaching
Right.
it, right? I mean, you're taking guys across the country and obviously within the state too. You're getting the results. Um, any what I guess transitioning into your program, who are some of the coaches you have there with your program?
So for a long time, we had TJ Cernus, Ethan Burden, and Ron Wilson. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, these were 3 kids that were in my room. So I had Brennan Cernus. He's now wrestling at Wyoming Sem. Um, they have him ranked like I think 7th in the country right now. Took 4th or 5th at Ironman. I'm drawing a blank on that one. But and then we have Ethan Burden. He's now a freshman at Dublin Kaufman. He'll probably be a 20, 26 pounder, somewhere right around there. And then we have Ty Wilson, who's also over in the Dublin area. He's at Dublin Scioto. But these
He's a
guys are
freshman
just,
this year. Is he a freshman this year?
yeah, he'll be a freshman. He's a beast too, man.
Mm-hmm.
He took second 2 years ago at junior high state.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was on track this year. Where was he going to go? 102, I believe it was. Yeah, I believe 102. And I think he was the clear favorite. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are just guys who. So basically, the guys who helped me coach, they were just the most committed people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like I sat them down, had an interview with them, and was like, "Oh, okay, you took third at districts in '99." You know what I mean? It's just more along the lines of they're committed. They were always there. They didn't have any expectations, anything different than what I was doing for the whole rest of the club. And they're just really good dudes, good helping hands. Cernus, he was always really good with running a practice. Like if I have to miss one, he'd jump right in. Burden, he's our go-to guy for like
Mm-hmm.
cardio and aggression, hand fighting, all that good stuff. Um, his brother's the head coach out there in Steubenville,
Okay.
so they got a history of wrestling. And then Ron Wilson, he's just developed so much over time. He now runs practices with groups of kids and everything else, and
Nice.
yeah, he does a pretty good job. So, I mean, that's really the 3 that we have stuck with. And then now, it's been super nice because throughout like the past couple of years, especially with me transitioning into the high school and taking over at DeSales, you got Coach Gilmore. He's a coach at Highland.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He brings his boy. He's always lacing up and helping out.
Nice.
Just good people in general. You
Yeah,
know what I
he's
mean? Like,
awesome. He's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
people just hopping on the mat, helping out. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah. Excuse me, we've talked about this before, but I coach at a Catholic school, and you do too. But your situation's a little different, right? They gotta live within the area, right? Which kind
Right.
of makes it almost worse than not worse, but more obstacles than a public school, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's super crazy. You guys are completely open, right? Like you can come from.
yeah, yeah, we're super small, and obviously we're right in the lake, so we don't draw from north. And then we have another private school, south of us, but it's not the population of Columbus either, so it's a little
Right.
different. But yeah, I mean, it's open, but But yeah,
Yeah, so for us, it's super goofy, and I didn't realize this until I took over as the head coach. So basically, you have to live in, like, say there's like 5 or 6 Catholic schools. You have to live in that quadrant of
mhm.
that school to go there, and I don't really understand it. I believe they put that rule into effect to keep enrollment up. I think it was like 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was.
Was
Keep
it
enrollment
was
up
it
at
when DeSales was, kind of, I mean, they're
our
tough in
house.
powerhouse in football too now again, right? They're,
Yeah, dude, they're in the state finals.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're doing really well, man. We got
So do you think it came of that from back then? Is that when it started? Do you know if that was when it started
I
or?
have no idea, but I know their reasoning was something about keeping enrollment up at each school. So I'm
Mhm,
sure, guys were kind of getting cherry picked to
mhm.
different schools, for their talents. So I'm sure that was one of the reasons behind it. But I mean, honestly, dude, like you go into Cleveland, obviously I went to St. Ed's and then you got Ignatius right down the street.
Right, right.
I mean, people should definitely, if you're paying money, you
Yeah,
should be able to pick and choose.
right.
Like
Walsh
people
and
saying,
CVCA, literally across the street, right?
bro, that's right.
Right, and you can see the other
Yeah,
school, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand the whole. I mean, if those lines were pulled down, it'd be crazy for us
Mhm.
from a wrestling perspective. We definitely. I got all those guys like I just named off, like Burden and Wilson, and Cernus was another one who's all the way out in Pennsylvania now. Like, there's a lot of guys that can't come to DeSales unless they pick up, move, transfer. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
it's just crazy. I mean, people have to like uproot their whole living just
Right,
to.
especially with COVID now, that's a big, it's like
Right.
another whole
Right.
scenario of moving, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, man. Especially right now, it's pretty wild, man. People still paying tuition and they're sitting at home doing schooling. I mean, we
Mhm.
had that discussion before.
Right.
I just, it's crazy to me. This whole world, this world is nuts right now, man. It's
Right, it
unbelievable.
is. It's one day closer to the end. That's what I keep telling myself. Closer to the end of the whole thing. Obviously, it's going to change things for for
Right.
our lifetime, but
Right.
it's we're all dealt the same cards, and we'll get through it. So I guess from the club side of things, um, what's that look like then for your club? Obviously a lot of uncertainty. I know as far as schedule, you got tournaments coming up, or what? I guess what's the training schedule and tournaments looking like from a club aspect?
So a lot of our guys have just kind of done their own thing for the past couple months. Obviously, we just sent quite a bit of guys over to National Middle School duels.
Hmm.
So they just hit that this weekend coming up. We got Tulsa. We had a group of like 15 going, and we're cut all the way back to about 5 just
Wow.
from people getting sick or people being around somebody who's sick. So then they're quarantined. So I mean, it's been a rat race.
Hmm.
And then other than this, I mean, obviously VAC got canceled, so that was usually our next heavy hitter for our grade school and junior high guys. And then we're hoping we're hoping your tournament goes off. We're hoping defense soak duels go off, and I mean, we're just taking it week by week. I mean, I'm sitting here on these. I got like 11 I got 11 emails right now going back and forth from all the Columbus coaches. It's a different every single day. It's changing, man. Like, we're one of the very last tournaments to still be up and running. We have our DeSales Classic for the high school guys on December 5th,
Okay.
and I don't even know how we're still hosting it.
Right.
Because literally every other tournament's been
Right.
axed. I mean, we only take, what do we got, 11 or 12 teams on the radar. Um, but I mean, things are just wild right now. So we're just taking it day by day, week by week, just whatever we can get.
Right.
So
We get we got a big dual tournament at the high school at St. Mary's, and I'm sure you've been in that high school. It's older
yeah,
building,
yeah,
but we usually have 18 teams, and so the plan right now, it's end of January, so we still have some time to plan. But same thing, it's like the thought process right now is go down to 6 teams each day. It's a 2-day tournament, and all right, six
right,
teams the first day, 6 teams the next day. We're gonna get 5 matches, and who knows, that could change the next 12 hours. It could change within the next week, but
yeah,
then we're in the same boat. And then like you said, the OAC stuff, trying to plan that out. Talking with Cedar Point, they've been really awesome to work with, but it's really not up to them sometimes. It's the health
right.
department's call. So we're gonna do what we can.
How's all that looking? Are they pretty much giving you the green light as of now?
Yep.
Everything's
Yep, as of now, it's the counties following what the states, mandates are as far as capacity limits, and then Cedar Point's been doing volleyball and things like that, and leagues. Actually, my daughters, they did volleyball out there this fall, and it's
Uh,
huge. I mean, it's 10 NBA courts, and so they're
oh, really?
yeah, I mean, it's huge, and so it's 10 courts, so they can spread people out. That's the beauty of it, and
Wow, that's awesome.
so yeah, and it's brand new. It just opened in January. We actually had a duel for the high school out there just to kind of check it out. This past year, we had 3 teams and just did a double duel. But but yeah, as of now, uh, they're saying here's the county saying or whatever the state's mandates are that we're following. Obviously, this summer it was just nuts. You have with Cedar Point and Kalahari and those big venues. The county's kind of high alert, but
Right.
we'll see. It could all change with the next, by the time this post, it could all change too.
Right.
Here we are.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah. So you now, I guess we talked. You're having a brother and dad coming up under them, and you have a daughter, right? She's getting. I seen jujitsu. Are you ever doing
Yeah.
that or what?
Yeah, she's been rolling with a dude that's he runs Super System over in Dublin.
Okay.
And he lives like 15 minutes from here, and I had to rent a facility right up the road. So we do one private a week. It's only 30 minutes long. She just turned 4 about a month ago,
Nice.
and I didn't want to get her into wrestling. I don't
Mm,
want to be I mean, I know what I went through,
mm-hmm.
and you know, I wouldn't want my kid to feel like she came up short, or you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, or she had to live up to expectations and
Mm-hmm.
all that.
Right.
So, and I also didn't want to be dad and coach,
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
just feel like
tough.
that formula's not
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
good one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I threw her in with his name's Tyler Beekner, and this dude, he's just a beast with her. He's so patient. He's like, I mean, she starts screwing around, and he just like redirects her back in. He does a lot better job than I do.
Yeah, 4-year-old. That guy. Yeah, young daughters. It's sometimes there's no corralling them.
Yeah, it's like herding cats sometimes, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, dude, she loves it though. Like she's able to roll through like she's not great, but she's able to roll through like whole series with them, and she's a pretty smart kid overall. She remembers quite a bit of it, and just the last time he had to roll through like a 10-piece series for going from like a takedown to a sprawl to a go behind to a choke, and then she got reversed, and then it's just cool seeing like the process, and she's so young,
Mm-hmm.
and so we got her doing that, and then we got her in gymnastics right now, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a maniac. So we got to keep her busy, dude.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, the gymnastics good for the. My daughter did that for a while too. They like that. Anything you're learning from? I mean, are you familiar with jiu-jitsu or anything you're kind of learning with alongside your daughter while she's
Well,
learning or anything?
we actually did. What's crazy about it? So you remember back a few years ago before we got to DeSales, we were running Ronin Training
Mm-hmm.
Center.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
right down there in Grandview, right by downtown Columbus. And so we went into business there. So I kind of was, kind of getting in the understanding of jujitsu and everything else. And honestly, the thing that I like most about it is the respect. I feel like it's a little bit different than wrestling. Like, yeah, you're still trying to choke somebody out, but at the same time, the respect level is a little bit different. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted my daughter to kind of jump into and understand, like, hey, you're not just out there to whoop somebody's ass. Like, you're also, you're competing. There's a respect level you have to, stay
Mm-hmm.
within. And um, I enjoy that. Now, Tyler keeps trying to get me to come up and do some training sessions over at the jujitsu gym. It's actually where Lance goes and trains every now
Okay.
and again. But honestly, dude, I'm so busy with training the kids and everything else.
Right.
It's not the easiest to get over there and get my own training going.
Right. It's you got your hands full, right?
It's pretty wild.
So Lance is back in Columbus then? Is that right now
Yeah,
he's
so
back in
he lives actually probably 20 minutes from me. He's right by the Easton area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and he built a house here. What was that? 3 years ago, and then he just started a construction company doing like landscaping, paver patio jobs, tree removal, bunch of but little bit of everything,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And this year PFL had shut down his fight organization.
Right. I seen
So
that.
instead of like postponing it and just rebooting it when they can, kind of like how UFC is done, just keep
Mhm.
it no fans and,
Mhm. Mhm.
still have the fights. They shut it down completely. And he's not too happy about it. I know he's been back and forth with them, lawsuits being thrown around, this and that. And, you know, uh, I don't think I don't think it's mainly the money. I think it's more about the simple fact he is probably in his prime right now
Mhm. Right.
and probably doesn't want to fight till he's 45 and deadhead. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Right. Right.
So, that punch drunk feeling. So, I think he was trying to maybe get a couple more years under his belt and cash out and,
Mhm.
move into another venture. But he's not too happy about it. That's for sure. So, I mean, you know how it goes. Your body probably feels,
Well, yeah, you got a time frame, and
yeah,
he knows. Okay, here's my time to
exactly.
earn that money, and then if they're not releasing them or giving him options to do anything, he's kind of handcuffed
Yep.
to that.
Yep.
He has a little one, a girl too on the way, right?
Yeah.
The
He's,
girl.
what is she? 5 months pregnant, I
Okay,
believe, as of right
man,
now. Yeah.
we all got these
He's all
girls,
excited
man.
up. Yeah, I know, dude. Girls everywhere. We went from all boys to you guys as well,
Same,
all
yeah. I
boys
had
to
three younger
all
brothers.
girls.
Then Drew has three boys. Corey has a boy, but so but yeah, I got all girls. But so, do you guys see he come in the room at all? You guys kind of, I know he has his own thing going on, but you kind of, from your club aspect, you kind of bounce things off him or learn from him what he's learning in his training that you can share with your athletes.
Um, it gives you a little bit different perspective. So like when you're stepping in, obviously when Lance cashed out, on, a couple monster
Right.
title
Oh
fights,
yeah.
cleared that $1 million each. And
Hmm.
it was uh it was cool because it kind of gives you a perspective of, hey, wrestling doesn't stop when you're done with high school. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you don't
Hmm.
have to be the best wrestler and go into college and do this and that. You can take off into this, or
Hmm.
it's cool to see the extra options. Because when I was a kid, and I'm sure the same with you, you look and it's like you can win an Olympic title, but what
Hmm.
else is there? And
Hmm.
then
Right.
people, some of the guys maybe had jumped into WWE or whatever, but going from what you're learning and what you're doing and everything you're instilling in yourself, you know, just with maybe one or two extra styles, whether it's boxing or jiu-jitsu added in or whatever it may be, you're an all-around MMA guy,
Hmm.
and then seeing how much money people clear on these fights. I mean, dude, it's crazy. If I have to put in 2 months of fighting and training and training camp and come out with a 60, 80, $100,000 check,
Hmm.
that's pretty sweet. I
Yeah.
think, you know, I just see our era being a little bit different, man. I don't see a whole lot of 9 to 5ers going on. I see,
Hmm.
just a bunch of innovators. And, I think the MMA is just an awesome, awesome venture for these guys to be able to drive into from wrestling.
Right. Right. I remember, back when I helped Zeb with Go High Flow start out, I just happened to be in Columbus for something. I popped over to um, Ohio State's practice, and Lance was there, and I remember interviewing him, and hey, what's the plans after you graduate? And he's like, I'm going to, like, at that right out of college, right? He went out to Team Alpha Male, right? Is that what he
He
started training out
went,
there?
so he was trying to coach at Ohio State.
Okay.
They ended up not needing him there. So went to Virginia Tech for a year
Okay.
under who was it, Coach Roby and Coach Dresser.
Dresser, yep.
He went there for a year, and then he flew out the next year straight to Cali. And I mean, dude, it didn't happen overnight though. I remember him
Yeah.
being out there for shoot maybe 4 or 5 years, and
But he knew
just
that was the plant, right? He was a
yeah,
senior, and what I'm
yep,
getting at, he was in college, like and that was still kind of new then. You know what I mean? Like you're saying,
right,
things have changed, and I just remember like, okay, that's cool. That's cool, and everyone knew, that knew him knew he's a bad dude. And it's like, all right, he's gonna figure it out. But
right,
and he got paid. He's getting paid, and
yep.
so do you see? I was talking with another coach on this. With the state of everything, the programs dropping and RTCs. Do you see more partnerships down the road in that landscape? Like you're saying, that 9 to 5 is going to be out the window for some of these guys, and you got these cards popping up from the wrestling side and the MMA side. Do you see these RTCs and potential like wrestling and MMA gyms kind of working together? They're training top level athletes, so they're trying to
Right.
achieve the same thing. Do you see that happening, or what's your take on that?
I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, just bringing all the combat sports together and,
Mhm.
growing as a whole. I mean, obviously, wrestling, can bring up some MMA guys, and MMA's bringing them up, financially. I think all these guys can go hand in hand with one another. But I just think it's cool that, like, so when we were over at Ronin, it was like a Muay Thai, it was a wrestling gym, it was boxing gym, jujitsu, obviously. It was just cool seeing it all come together, and it was a
Mhm.
pretty slick space because you got the octagon, you got, everything was just all spread out. It wasn't like everybody was sharing one space and,
Right.
switching throughout the mats. But um, as far as like a business, I think I just see wrestling moving in a direction. I mean, fingers crossed this doesn't happen, but I see wrestling in general moving to like a club type of sport. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
I feel like with all these I mean, obviously your big heavy hitter universities probably won't drop it, but all these little universities just don't see the value in it. And I mean, I just see everything kind of moving into a club direction. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Which could possibly be more profitable for not only the people running it, but also the people, the athletes.
Mhm.
Obviously when you're coming up through high school and college, can't get paid, can't do this, and we all know how tough it is to make it. Even I
Mhm.
was on full scholarship at Ohio State. I was broke as a joke all the time. It'd
Mhm.
been great if I was competing and making money and allowed to.
Mhm.
So I think it'd be sweet to see an organization happen, something that's right out of high school. You know what I mean? Maybe a lower tier, but same thing. Like you're doing cards. You know what I mean? So whether it's wrestling matches or you're doing boxing or a mixture of MMA, whatever it may be, but something right out of high school. So there's like another thing for people to jump into.
Right. Right. So I gotta ask this. So it was you had Fret one right this summer,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
we had him in I think a year or two ago, and brings up Jay Jaggers does this, and he looked at who knows Jay Jaggers, and like I think two of the 50 kids right there. And he's like, "Come on, what's going on? You guys don't know how." You know, do you ever run into that at these camps? Like people like don't know who you are, and if they don't, is there a video that you kind of say, "Go watch me, check me out here" or something? You know what I mean?
The first few camps that I did, especially like, I mean, this was just 2 years ago. I did a few camps out of state.
Hmm.
Kids had no idea who I was, dude. And I was just like, all right, screw it, whatever. And usually, like when I go into a camp, I don't usually talk about like my wrestling or anything like that. We
Hmm.
just kind of jump right into it. And I just
Hmm.
kind of build a relationship with the kids that I'm training at the time. And it's kind of cool though, because these guys would be like, hey, what state did you wrestle out of? I was like, damn, this guy doesn't even know where I'm from. But and then we'll be sitting there, and the next thing you know, people always bring up the match with me and Taylor and stuff like that.
Match of the century, right? I mean,
Yeah, match of the century.
that was a big one though, right? I mean,
Yeah, I
you,
mean, the thing is you used to always see people dodging people,
right.
to try to
Hmm.
pad the record, or I don't know, whatever it may
You
be.
would
But
never see that in a duel setting either. You might
right,
see an Ironman finals marquee match, right? But not in a
exactly.
duel, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was awesome. Me and Taylor grew up together. Flying, staying in hotels together, wrestling at Reno and
Mhm.
everything else. And we always had competed back and forth for like OWs at different tournaments. And
Mhm.
to finally go toe to toe, both of our senior years, it was pretty badass. It was a cool duel. Obviously, he got the better of me that day, but just in general, I think that's what we need, dude.
Mhm.
Like for me as an athlete, it was good because I was there was all kinds of things going on senior year, but it was good for me to get that loss before the state tournament
Mhm.
because I just was not on track of what I usually was,
Mhm.
whether it was injury or we had all kinds of craziness going on that year. But it kind of redirected me, and I was like, damn, I need to get back on the Airdyne bike and get back doing my training like I was doing. And you get to that spot where you're in a comfort zone. You're
Mhm.
like, I'm tech pinning everybody throughout the damn season. Other than
Mhm.
Ironman, what do I need to do? And then I get a
Right.
call, and they're like, hey, David wants to jump up, wrestle you at 140. I'm like, sweet.
Mm-hmm.
3 days ain't enough to get ready, get ready for match like that. But
And
it
he's
was good though.
in his gym, right? And it's a smaller
Yeah,
gym. I mean, that
yeah.
place was rocking.
It's a really small gym and it's real old. Everything's
Mhm.
real old. And they had the bleachers that were on the stage that ran up the whole stage. But the place was packed, dude. A bunch of
Mhm.
people from Ohio State ended up coming over for the duel. Um, it was wall to wall people. It was awesome because the energy was crazy. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember giving up like a reversal or whatever or a takedown towards the end of the match. And
Because you were winning most of the match, weren't you? You took him down first, right?
yeah, dude, I hit like a
Duck under or something.
I actually went for a high crotch and he
Okay.
like kind of circled out. When he circled out, I just kind of caught it like
Okay.
a duck and
Okay.
covered it up. But yeah, like that feeling like it when people just roar. So like for a year four state title, when people just are all standing, it's like the
Mhm.
best feeling in the world. So being on the opposite end of that, I
Uh,
was just like, damn, there's a lot of energy going on right now, but
yeah.
this is not for me.
And they were close, so you could probably feel. They're
Oh,
when they're
dude.
close, you could just feel it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there was at one point I got a reversal on Taylor, I believe it was, and you see in the background my dad's doing knees to chest, like he's just front row, just knees all the way up. It was awesome, dude. It was hilarious. The energy was crazy, and then obviously the respect level for one another at the end of the match is always the same, and
Right.
um, but yeah, it was a good eye opener, dude, because you never know. And then I ended up thinking I'm wrestling Brad Squire in the state finals. A kid who I think he was ranked third or fourth in the country at the
Mhm.
time. He ended up getting beat up pretty good by Tommy Sasfy, who's now my
Who's he?
assistant coach.
I was gonna
And
ask Josh's brother, right?
dude,
Yeah.
I completely forgot to throw him in there for. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I just brought him on. He just started like 2 weeks ago with us. Basically, he was
Just got
coaching.
married, right?
Huh?
He just got married, right?
Yeah, he just got married. He's the brother of Barbarian Apparel, Josh Sasfy.
Mhm.
And so this dude, he's just a great dude. He's a teacher, he's a good guy. We've been buddies ever since we wrestled in the state finals, and just a good dude in general. And
Mhm.
he's another one who does a really, really good job with the kids, like especially the younger kids. Like he's very good with like patience and
Mhm.
understanding, and he does a good job of redirecting them and getting their attention back focused. I'm more the guy. I'm just like screaming and yelling, and like if you're not elite yet, go stand over there and he'll help you out, type of deal. But yeah. So Tommy Sasfy ends up beating Brad Square in the state semis, and like pretty handily. It was crazy. So ended up wrestling a dude who I only beat him 3-1. It was a really close match, but yeah, definitely took that Taylor match to
Mhm.
redirect my focus.
That's yeah, I'm sure it's still out there. I have to find it and put in the show notes for those coaches to share with the youngsters so they know who you are, right?
Right.
So Tommy Sassby's story, he wrestled with my brother Troy at Kent, and
Right.
one summer I had a re-roofing my first house. It had hail damage or something, so I was re-roofing it, and so I ended up doing it myself. I was like, Troy, get your college buddies up here, and Tommy is one of the guys, so. I think he was complaining about his hands and getting blisters or something. So ask him about it, bust his chops.
How's your
So
hands doing?
yeah, so
My fingers hurt. Your
your
gonna
back's
hurt.
gonna hurt.
Hold on to me.
Classic. That's awesome. No, yeah, I haven't seen him in a minute. But that's awesome. You got him on staff. Obviously, if he, like you said, the patience at the beginner level, you got to have that. You know what I mean? Because you got
Right.
to have the guy that's, a bad cop, and then you got to have good cop in the room too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If not, it's gonna be a long practice, a long year. But that's
Right.
cool. Any other matches stick out? That beside that match of the century that because
Uh,
it's part of the branding, right? I mean, right now with these cards, right, they're trying to bring people in that people are going to watch with these cards. Obviously, you're done competing, but
right.
now you run in your program. How many years now in Central High with your club?
I believe we started in 2011, so about
Okay,
9 years.
yeah. So I
Um,
mean, you've been, you got these ones jumping up every year, then
yeah,
whatever it is, but
yeah,
you kind of you have a system in place, and I know you bring guys, and like I said, you bring like Fretwell in or guys that give it a different angle. But
right.
I'm just curious. Any other matches you kind of tell because you're not telling, hey, go watch this kid, but any other matches that stick out that you'd want kids to see you wrestle in? Or?
Honestly, I would say like the one of the biggest standout matches that I won was probably my state finals my freshman year.
Okay.
I just I don't know what it was, but like my freshman year, you would think like going into the state tournament and the wow factor of
Mm-hmm.
the Ohio State tournament,
Mm-hmm.
I figured I'd be super nervous and super like just it was the complete opposite. I was so focused and so just ready to just get after it. Um, I was wrestling a kid named Ryan Fields, and we had trained together and everything else throughout, a little bit throughout high school. Actually, with Burnett, he had come up, and man, I just opened up the gate, and I ended up. I think I tech pinned him in the finals,
Nice.
and he was a kid. He wrestled Tony Jamison the year before in the state
Mm-hmm.
finals. I want to say it was like a 3-2 match. And I don't know, man. I just freshman year, the confidence level was crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one thing that I try to, push onto my guys. I'm always like, hey, if your focus and your concentration isn't there and you're worried about your nerves, you're probably not going to wrestle very well,
Mm-hmm.
And dude, there's guys we go to your tournament, OAC State, and it's just I have some kids that they shut down. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, you're in sixth grade. Where is
Yeah.
the pressure coming from? Because
Right.
I'm sitting over here, I'm high fiving you whether you win or lose,
Mm-hmm.
just understanding the longevity of the sport
Mm-hmm.
and where I want these guys, but just trying to instill confidence in these guys is probably one of the biggest things that I shoot for.
So what do you
But
say to someone, OEC State, it can be overwhelming for a kid, right? It might,
right,
there might be, like you're saying before, these dual tournaments are big and they're going to these, it's more of a, convention style. And then you get to
exactly.
OEC State and you're walking through the tunnel and all that, atmosphere walking into the arena. It can be
Right.
overwhelming, but I think in the big picture, it's kind of helping them set them up for state, right? That first
No
time,
doubt.
like you said, freshman year, you walk out. But what do you say to that, fifth, sixth grade, or even middle school kid, that you see him in the room, you've seen him at all these tournaments all year, and then they get to that point and they're kind of shying away or just overwhelmed. What do you say as a coach?
So, like, say we're getting ready for OAC State.
Hmm.
I usually give them the perspective of like, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you're going to get into. You're going to go back in the bullpen.
Hmm.
Then they have like these gates, and you're going to walk into the gate, because I think a lot of it, when you go from all these dual team tournaments, like we had discussed before we jumped on here, the pressure isn't there. There's
Hmm.
not really that much pressure unless you're in a big duel and it's coming down to the wire and you're like one of the last
And
matches.
how often does that happen, really? Right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we had it once or twice in my whole career between, I think once with, I think it was both with Blair,
hmm.
when we are dueling Blair against St. Ed's. But, so you don't really you don't get that whole feeling of overwhelming going on.
Hmm.
So I explained the situation to him, what it's going to feel like, where you're going to go. You're going to be with your mom or dad. You're going to come up into here. I'll meet you out on the floor and then we'll walk to the mat. But if you don't explain that to them, and then they get there and they're just kind of like looking around, they're all nervous, and it's like, dude, it's a wrestling mat.
Hmm.
It's just a bigger place,
Hmm.
and it's the same thing. But I try to explain to them what they're gonna feel, what they're gonna go through, and I think their confidence goes up because they know that I've already been there, done that. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
They're like, okay, someone's in my corner that knows what's
Yeah.
happening, so they don't feel
Yeah.
alone out there.
Exactly. And it's not like, I'm just making it up. They know they'll feel everything that I just got done explaining to them on Thursday's practice. They're like, oh, okay, he's right. Yeah, this is
Right.
it. And then I think though, going through the high school tunnel for the first time,
Hmm.
those jitters, you're just gonna have to deal with them. I
Right.
mean, you know how it goes,
Yeah.
man. You walk out there and it's just like you walk out of that tunnel and it's that roar and it's
Right.
like,
Right.
damn,
It's
yeah,
yeah, my senior year actually when it moved, it used to be in Dayton. So my senior year was the first year at Ohio State. So it was a little, I thought, okay, going through this is gonna be the routine,
yeah,
I'm not back here. And then, senior year was in Columbus. So actually our, Jude Rothy, what
yeah,
he did, he actually took us, we went to like a women's basketball game there or something. He's like, and we got to see the arena before, before the state tournament. And we walked through all the facilities and things like that. So when we got down there, here, a lot
beautiful.
of our guys have already wrestled it, in Dayton, but now
Right.
now we know, at least some of the layout. It's not everything's not so foreign, but
Right.
same thing. And you bring
Yeah,
up
it's
a
a good idea. I think it's a good part of coaching. And another thing that Coach Heff, when we were at Ed's, one thing he always did, he made it a rule when we went to the state tournament, you weren't allowed to stay and watch. You were
oh,
in, you would come through the door, you'd warm up, you'd get on the mat, get on the board and do your thing, wrestle. And as soon as you were done, you were rolling. You were taking the first van back. As soon as the first van was filled, that one was taken off back to the hotel, just because you don't realize sitting around at a tournament how much it drains you, you
right,
know?
right,
And then you're getting drawn in on certain matches, and then your emotions are all running.
right,
You don't realize you're just draining yourself watching,
right.
Joe over here on Matt too.
Yeah. I've told this on a previous episode, but you'll get this, from the brother aspect. Actually, my senior year, Drew wrestled right before me. He was 19, I was 25, and our semifinals and finals match, our coach put us back, where the media kind of exit is.
Yep,
They
yep.
put me in. There's a closet back there, like you're not allowed to watch him wrestle. So I didn't know if he won his semifinals or finals. I knew his finals he won. But they would open the door, you're up, and I just ran, because D3's on that end, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So that's what, I at least I had smart enough coaches to know that, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because
yeah.
I would have been drained. He had some, he's just, sophomore,
Right.
I'd have, and they're like, you got to worry about you,
Yeah,
what he does. So it was pretty cool. I had coaches,
yeah.
that understood that, because some guys don't think that through, but
Yeah, they definitely don't. There's so much more to the sport than just training and showing up to the match, like
mm-hmm.
that, the mental aspect. I think it's good now that there's a lot of different directions these guys can turn, what is that one called? Is it something mindset? I'm drawing a blank.
Wrestling mindset. That
Yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah.
him on. Yeah, Jake Hunter, and I know there's Mike. That they
Yeah,
got a lot
yeah.
of people. Yeah, they do a phenomenal job. Yeah,
Yeah, he reached out to me. He's supposed to be coming to our camp next
nice.
Saturday or
Yeah.
Sunday, but they just do a good job of keeping kids at ease mentally. And
Mhm.
anymore, I mean, dude, especially with social media, these kids' minds got to be all over the
Right.
place. I mean, I see some of
Uh,
these TikToks, and I'm just like, I don't even know how these kids make it through a day. I mean, it's nuts.
right. But another thing with the whole mental approach, and Coach Bellamy, I know you know him too. One of our coach up here, his approach to what it does for other sports. I know we're a smaller school, so a lot of our guys do multiple sports, and he's telling these, like the football coach, if you want your quarterback to be comfortable under center in a game-winning situation, have him wrestle. We don't expect him to be an all-star wrestler, but
Right.
so many times these other sports, they get to the, game match point, whatever, or, football, or, your pitcher and your, bottom of the whatever, and you got to pitch that strike. If
Right.
you've wrestled, it's kind of like, okay, I felt this heart rate, I felt this pressure. And,
Yep.
I don't know, there's a lot people can take away from wrestling, I feel like too, but
There's no
we're
doubt.
we're preaching to the choir on that. We know
Yeah.
we know that, but
Yeah.
so you have anything else? Ask, share, tell, anything, where they can find you, or any other stories you want to tell?
Um, I mean, honestly, other than camp coming up next weekend, I mean, we could
Uh,
be sitting on here all day about
yeah,
storytelling. But
yeah,
yeah, man, I just hope we have a season. I hope things stay smooth. This stuff's been a little wild lately, but we got like I said, we got our Thanksgiving boot camp coming up next weekend. Um, that should be a good one. And then wrestling mindset's supposed to be coming in one of those days, so to kind of be, you know, double bang for your buck. Um,
nice, nice,
other than that, cpwrestling.net and down here in Columbus.
nice,
So
nice. Well,
that's
thanks,
about it.
man. I'm sure, I hope we cross paths soon, and everything. If not, I'm sure I'll be in touch and talk to you. But
Sounds good. Yeah,
thank
keep us in touch with the tournaments because I
All right.
got all kinds of guys looking right now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for
So,
your time, man.
yep. Thanks, dude. We'll talk to you.
Yeah.